everybody, let's give it a chance to people to join in. Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. Today's Everything Music is called Upper Structure Triads and Sevenths, if you can see that up there. I actually have a special guest here that's sitting right behind the camera, who is Rhett Shull. Rhett, you want to come around here? Now Rhett has actually been working as my intern, I guess you'd say, for the past 5 years or so. And he's the one that made me do this YouTube channel. So it's all his fault.
Yeah.
So he was the one that said, you should do a YouTube channel. And I said, YouTube's, what are you talking about, be a YouTuber? He said, yeah. I said, that's not for people with white hair. That's for young people. He said, no, you needed to talk about all your crazy music theory stuff. And so it's all his fault.
Yeah, about a year ago. So
Rhett's helping me out today. He's manning the camera and making sure that I'm in focus when I'm writing down things.
Yeah, and I'm reading all the comments.
He's
too.
reading the comments.
Yeah.
If there's good comments, you're going to tell me.
Yeah. And then, if you hear me talking, don't get freaked out.
Yeah, don't freak out. Rhett's back there. So, anyways, are the people writing comments there, Rhett?
Yeah.
Are they saying, hey, Rhett?
Nah, not yet. Somebody from
man.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, put down where you're from. And don't forget, everybody, that when the podcast is... When the YouTube live is done, leave comments. If I haven't addressed your questions, put down where you're from and what your questions are. Ask me things like what you want me to talk about in future videos. What if there's any specific video that I put out recently that you have questions on. The sounding off with Steve Vai did incredibly well, and we've got a lot more coming up. And I want to give Steve another shout out. That was amazing. Our next sounding off is going to probably be within the next week or so, and I've got some really special guests planned. So this is, I want to mention that we're setting up, Rhett was just helping me set up a podcast for sounding off and for a lot of my videos that you're going to be able to find them on, and I'll leave the link below once we're done setting it up, but it should be up and running today. Is that correct, Rhett?
Yeah, so we're going to start probably a twice weekly podcast featuring some of the content that you get on the YouTube channel, but also some specific podcast-only content. So we're going to set it up for iTunes, Google Play, Podcast One, anywhere where you can get a podcast downloaded, you'll be able to get Sounding Off with Rick Beato.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about the upper structure triads today. Now, I've done some videos on this, but I wanted to explain some of the theory and shortcuts in ways to memorize how to do this and what they sound like. So, one of the things about upper structure triads, you basically have to build chords in thirds to figure out what these are. I like to start with just a major chord. I'll start with a C major chord, for example. And Brad, tell me if you can see this. So if I build a C major chord, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so C, E, G, C major. Well, your upper structure triads don't start really until you hit the seventh, okay? Sevenths and ninths. So I'm going to continue to build a chord in thirds. I'm going to put a B here, and I'm going to put a D. And now I have my first upper structure triad. So if you think about this, you have your 1, your 3, 5, 7, 9, okay? Well, here's your first upper structure triad is the GBD, which is G major, right? So what I like to do is I like just bracket it off here and just put G major, okay? Then if we use this, we can either do D, F, A if you want to stay diatonic to C major, to C Ionian, and we get a D minor triad right here. Okay, this would be D minor, but that's really for more of a sus sound. I prefer to actually use F sharp to give a sharp 11, to give a Lydian sound. So this is really from the Lydian scale. So this is a D major upper structure triad. So we have here, we have C major, which is our root position triad, C, G, and D. Well, if you think about it, C Lydian is the fourth mode in G major. Well, think about this. This is the 1, 4, and 5 chords of C major, right? I'm sorry, of G major. This is 1, 4, 5. Or you can say, okay, C, you can use the root triad. If you go up a fifth to G, you can use that major triad. And if you go up a whole step, you can use that major triad. There's also a minor triad hiding in here, which is right here, which is a B minor triad. Now, once we've identified these, so you have the minor triad built on the 7th, okay? There are some also hidden 7th chords in here. If you look at G, B, D, F sharp, that is a G major 7 chord. So that's our 1/7 chord that we have. And if you look at B, D, F sharp, A, this is B minor 7, okay? Those are our upper structure triads and 7th chords. So what do they sound like? Well, you can do them one of two ways. You can play them melodically or harmonically. Melodically, obviously, would be a single note. So if I start with a C major chord, I'm just going to put C and G here as a 5th. So I put my first upper structure triad. Let's go with C major, root position. Then you have G major. You have D major. You have B minor. So if you're playing in lines, C major, G major, D major, B minor. So you can literally put them together. You can also do G major 7 as an upper structure triad like that, right? You can also do B minor 7. Now each of these will serve a certain function. If you wanted to play a chord voicing like that, that's a G over C, okay? I could make it like that, a G major over C major, which gives you a C major 9 sound, okay? I could do a D major over C major, which gives me a C Lydian sound, great sound, right? I can put a B minor 7 over C, which gives me essentially a C Lydian or C major 7 sharp 11 sound. And you can combine some of these with, let's say I take this D major over C, and I take the G, take the G and put it at the top of the chord, and I've given you a D major sus4 sound, but I'm really thinking of that D major triad in there. G major, D major with the G on the top. This is what gives you your upper structure sound. I put the G down below. So G major, D major, B minor. So those would be upper structures based on the C Lydian scale. So remember, you have to build your chords in thirds and then start to look at where you can find patterns of triads, because they're going to be all over the place. Now we can do this, we'll do this with a C minor chord. We'll take all the basic chords first, and then we'll do some more exotic sounds. So if we take a simple C minor chord, this is actually a good way to remember what the upper extensions are. This is interesting because my son Dylan actually learned these this way. So let's say we go C, E flat, G. So we have a C minor chord right here. Now, if I play or if I start to add thirds above here, G, if I put a B flat, that becomes a C minor 7, and then I put a D. So this is a G minor chord. So this is one of the upper extensions here. This upper extended triad here, so G minor. Remember, minus is minor, okay? Now, if I go D, F, A, F is the 11th, D is the 9th, right? 11, 13. A is a natural 13, so this would be from the C Dorian scale. D, F, A, D minor, okay? Then you start to look in here and you see if you see any other triads. Well, B flat, D, F is B flat major. This is another upper extension triad, okay? So let's just talk about what notes we have in the chord here. C is the 1, so you have 1, 3, or flat 3, 5, C. B flat is the flat 7, D is the 9, F is the 11, and A is the 13, okay? So what does that sound like? Well, I put a C minor chord in the bass, then I put G minor over it. It can be in any inversion, really doesn't matter, but I'm gonna put, and that gives you right there your C minor 9 sound, okay? I can put a B flat major triad on it. That's a beautiful sound. I can put a D minor triad on it. That gives you a C minor 13 sound, all right? So check them out again. Here's G minor. And I'll just play up the arpeggios. Then we'll go to B flat major because that's the next one on the list. And then we'll go to D minor. Those are your upper extension triads out of C Dorian, okay? You can also take this and flat this A. Then it becomes a flat 6. That's how we would refer to this, a flat 6, which is Aeolian. This is from a C Aeolian scale. Now this triad changes here and it becomes a D diminished. Okay, D, F, A flat. Okay. Nothing else changes in the scale. I've just changed one note, but I did it to accommodate that flat 6 in the Aeolian scale. So it changes some of the voicings, obviously. Changes that particular voicing. So you get C minor. And if I put that D diminished, so it's D, F, A flat, so you got this. Beautiful sound. Now that isn't necessarily something that you're gonna think of. I think a lot of people don't think D diminished over C minor. Beautiful sound though. And if you're thinking linearly, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful sound. So if I have B flat major, right? I go like this. Then I go to D diminished, right? Or I can go from G minor to D diminished. And that will give you the upper structures of a C Aeolian scale. So you have to think of these, or C Aeolian mode. You have to think of these upper structures. You have to relate them to whatever particular mode they're in. Now, if you did something like this, let's talk about dominant chords, because dominant chords are where you really get into some cool things. I could have done that with a Phrygian mode. I could have done it with any mode that works over a minor scale. I could do it with Dorian, which we did, Aeolian, which we did, Phrygian, which we did. You could do it with melodic minor. Let's actually do that right now because that's an easy one to do. So I'll go back with C minor. So C, E flat, G. Then I put a B here because this is a C minor major 7. Now a C melodic minor scale has a major 7 in it. So G, B, D. Well, right there we already see this. So we have the 1, flat 3, 5, major 7. So this is a C minor major 7 right here. C minor major 7. And then you have a G major triad here. So this is G major. That's your first upper structure triad there. G, B, D, F, and then we're going to go to A because C melodic minor has an A natural in it. Okay, has a natural 6th. So what else do you have here? You have B, D, F, and then you have D, F, A. So we have a couple familiar ones. We have D minor here, but B, D, F, right? You have a B diminished triad right there. B diminished. All right. Now, what seventh chords do you have? You have G, B, D, F, which is a G7 chord, right here. Do this. I'm gonna have to stand up. G7, and then we have B, D, F, A. Okay. Anybody know what that is? B, D, F, A. That's a B minor 7 flat 5 chord, right? So that's your other upper structure seventh chord, B half diminished. I don't use that symbol very often, a diminished with a slash through it. I should start using it. I mean, I do use it, but I realize that I don't usually use it in my videos. I usually will put B minor 7 flat 5, but obviously that is a great shortcut for it, and that is very traditional. One of the things that you should do is you should know all the different variations of things that people use. Don't get hung up on just one thing. For example, I was having this discussion the other night about the altered dominant scale. Well, the altered dominant scale is called the altered dominant scale. It's called the altered scale. It's called super Locrian, and it's called diminished whole tone. Just like the diminished scale, what I call the diminished scale is also called the octatonic scale. A lot of people refer to it as that, but you should know it is in as many names as you can. You know, dodecaphonic or 12 tone or serial music has many different names that are routinely used by people. So always know these things like that, these common nomenclature symbols like this for half diminished. So let's take this. You got C minor, and I put a G major triad on top of it. Oh, that sounds obviously like a minor major 9 chord right there. Okay. Root, third, flat third, fifth, major 7th, 9th. So this would be a C minor major 9. And I'm doing it, I can do it like this, where I go up to the F there and I use the B diminished. Or I can use G major, B diminished, D minor, but the D minor doesn't really help unless you have the B in there. That's a B half diminished. But right there, just having the G major chord with it over C minor is a great sound for that. That's a beautiful minor major 7 sound. These are ways that you can build lines. These are ways that you can build chords really easily, but it's actually, the best part about it is to memorize what are the upper structure triads and 7th chords with it. So you have to build chords by thirds in order to do that. Now, when I'm playing a C minor major 7 chord voicing, I might play many different voicings for it. I may not play anything like that. Just like when I play C Aeolian, you know, I might play something like this, that and I'm not necessarily going to play the this chord, although that sounds great too, because that's just a straight D diminished chord over C minor, as opposed to this is more of a modal voicing that has much more of an interesting interval combination to it. Anyways, but this will help you realize what notes are the upper extensions. This is actually how my son Dylan learned it. He would see the patterns here. He'd say, oh, C minor major 7 or minor major 9 is just a G major triad. So he'd go C, E, G, then he'd say G, B, D. And he would realize that. And I thought, wow, that's actually a great way to do that. That's a great method. Or G, B, flat, D if it were a C minor major, a C minor 9 chord, okay? So, dominant chords are where it gets a little tricky, because when you start getting into altered notes, you start getting into enharmonics. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can do straight chords out of Mixolydian. So C, E, G, which is C major, right? Then you have B flat, which is your flat 7. You can see what's coming next. G, B flat, D. Well, that's G minor right there. So a C So C9 chord is really just a G minor chord and a C major chord put together, essentially. Okay? D, F, A. This would give you the 11th and the 13th. That would be D minor. So that would give you a D minor chord. I would use that I wouldn't use that quite for an 11th chord. For an 11th chord, I'll show you here. You got B, D, F, B flat. I'm sorry, B flat, D, F. Okay? And then you have the 7th chords here, which is G, B flat, D, F, which is G minor 7. And then you have B flat, D, F, A, okay, which is this, which is B flat major 7. So I'm going to go like this and go B flat major 7. Those are your upper structured triads of a C7 chord. That comes from C mixolydian. So let's hear what they sound like. Well, typically, if you have a chord like this, if I play a, you'd hear that as a B flat over C or a C11 chord. That's a typical voicing of a C11 chord. But, and I just played B flat triad over a C bass note. But if I play a B flat major chord over C major, that gives me a C11 chord. But one of the cool things about this is that flat 9 interval, okay? That is a really cool dissonance. I personally like that, but a lot of people might think it's really strident. So you might want to move that E up to an F there. And this, and I'm doing C sus4. But that works nicely. You know I like the sound of that. And then if I go to a G minor chord, I'll do it like this, or like this. That actually sounds really, really consonant. Beautiful sound. Then I take G minor 7 is another possibility, so I can go G, B flat, D, F over C minor. Or I'm sorry, over C major. Well, that's like 2ing the 5. If you play a G minor 7 over C7, essentially, you're playing the 2 chord with a 5 chord. So that's why that works. But it still gives you a G7 sus sound. Same with D minor, if I play a D minor chord over that. But we still have this issue of the strident flat 9 interval, which is why you would commonly make this an F sharp. Now, that changes everything a little bit here, okay? That makes that a D major chord. That makes this a B augmented chord. This makes this G, B flat, D, F sharp, a G minor, not 7, but G minor major 7 chord there, okay? Everything else stays the same. So these are where you start to get into this is the C mixed sharp 11 scale, which is, as you know, the 4th mode of the melodic minor scale. So, I get C major, and I'm going to put, I'll take I'm sorry, I have the B diminished. I'm going to put B flat diminished, or B flat augmented, B flat augmented. So if I take a B flat augmented chord, and there's your sound. That's a dominant 7 with a sharp 11. Now, one of the reasons I love B flat augmented is because it's the only triad the only standard triad, when I say standard I mean major, minor, diminished, augmented, that has both a sharp and a flat in it. So B flat, D, F sharp, okay? That's always the trick that I give little kids when I ask them, when I'm teaching them theory. What triad is the only one that has a sharp and a flat? Okay, G minor major 7. So if I go G, and I put a spread triad in the left hand, which will really give the sound a lot better. That's a nice fat sound. So I got G minor major 7 over C major. And if I do B flat, D, F sharp, A, that is the other chord that's missing here. This is a B flat, major 7, sharp 5. You can see it's a D triad, D major triad over B flat, but it's a B flat major 7, sharp 5, or otherwise known as a B flat Lydian augmented chord. So B flat, D, F sharp, A. And that comes from this scale. There's your mixed sharp 11 scale. That is really the sound of it. So a B flat major 7 sharp 5 over C major will give you a real mixed sharp 11 sound. Okay? So these are the upper structure triads of a C mixed sharp 11. Now, the tricky stuff starts to get when you get different alterations in there. Okay, I'll have to erase this to go. So when you start getting into altered notes, altered ninths and fifths, it starts to get a little bit more confusing because we have a lot of enharmonic relationships that you may not think of. Okay, C, E, G. Now this G could also be a G sharp if we think of a sharp 5. We're going to start with the other alterations first. B flat, and then we're going to go to D flat. Now, this is a C7 flat 9 chord. So I have G, B flat, D flat, okay, which is this, which is a G diminished chord, G diminished triad. Remember, circle means diminished. So I got 1, we'll do it like this, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, flat 9, okay? That is a dominant 7 flat 9 chord. They're built in thirds. So the fact that it has a natural fifth in it means it's not from the altered dominant scale, because the difference, it's from the dominant diminished scale. The main difference between the dominant diminished scale and the altered dominant, a lot of people don't realize this, is that the dominant diminished scale has a natural fifth and a natural sixth, whereas the altered dominant scale has a sharp fifth. It's actually missing one note. It's got a sharp fifth, which the other scale does not have, and it's got a flat 13 or a flat 6, but which is the flat 13. The sharp fifth is really the flat 6 or the flat 13. It's also called. So it has a sharp 4, sharp 5. It's got the flat 9 and flat 5, flat 9 and sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 5. But let's continue this on. So D flat. I can go to F sharp. This is where you start getting into some confusing enharmonics. And then a natural, all right? This is a flat 9, that's the sharp 4. Okay, so if we go D flat, this is confusing here. D flat, F sharp, A. Well, this is really an F sharp minor chord, okay, in inversion. D flat, F sharp, A, okay, because really, the D flat is really a C sharp, which kind of screws this up, but you got to think enharmonically on these. This is why I said this becomes confusing. C sharp here, this becomes an inverted F sharp minor chord, okay? So, this will give me this is the sharp 11 here, this is the flat 9, this is the sharp 4, and this is the 13. This is where you get that 13 flat 9 sound. Okay, so if I have a C major chord, then I put a G minor triad, or G diminished triad, and if I put, B flat, D flat, F sharp, that's another enharmonic that we have there. Okay, this is confusing again. So if I go B flat, D flat, F sharp is really an inverted F sharp major chord, okay, because these are your enharmonics. So B flat is really A sharp. D flat is really C sharp. And obviously, F sharp is F sharp, right? So it's a first inversion F sharp major chord. Well, if I play an F sharp major over a C major, it gives me a dominant 9 flat 5 sound, right? You've got the flat 7, you have the flat 9, and you have the flat 5. Okay? This is what I say where it's confusing to know these upper structure triads. That's why a lot of these you just need to memorize. For example, a major triad, because this is in first inversion, obviously. This is an F sharp major chord in first inversion. But this is really how you get these upper structured triads. So if you think of it, you got the root, on any dominant chord, if you play the major triad a tritone away, it will give you a dominant 9, dominant 7, flat 9, flat 5 sound. Okay, so here we go. Check it out again. Now if I play F sharp minor over this, okay, that's a cool voicing. If I play, we have some 7th chords in here that are kind of confusing too. If we play, now this is obviously out of the diminished scale, so this would be a 13, flat 9, flat 5 voicing, but our voicing is really a combination of an F sharp major chord and an F sharp minor chord. This is a really cool thing, this minor over major. You'll hear people like Thomas Newman will use this sound a lot. And this is how these sounds, how you come up with these sounds, is by building these upper structured triads or 7th chords, okay? So this is all using N harmonics where it becomes confusing. So we've got A sharp, C sharp, F sharp, A natural, okay? Or you could say B flat, D flat, G flat, A natural. However you want to do it. It's confusing either way. It's G flat major and it's got the A, but I like to use it as F sharp major. So let's do it like this. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, A natural. So you have both the minor and the major. This is your major third, this is your flat third. Generally though, the spacing of these chords is like this, where they're spread apart. This is right out of the diminished scale, okay? So it's a really great sound, minor over major. You hear it, and I've described it. If you go back and watch some of my Thomas Newman videos, you'll see it. He uses it all the time. But these type sounds come from building building chords in thirds. Now let's talk about the tricky one, where you get into the altered chords. Okay, meaning the altered dominant ones. So that's going to involve having an augmented triad at your bass here. So it's going to be C, E, G sharp is going to be the base of the chord. Okay, so this is really going to be out of your C altered dominant scale that you're going to start getting these. C, E, G sharp. So E, G sharp, B flat. Okay, that's your that would be your dominant 7, sharp 5. That's a common jazz chord. Everybody's played that. Okay, but really this E, G sharp, B flat is not really a triad. Okay, not a typical triad. So if I still build chords and I spell them with using thirds, it starts to get a little bit confusing here. Okay, so because the next note would be D flat. Okay, if I'm spelling G, B, D, F, okay, but you're going to probably put F sharp there because that's one of the altered notes there. We're thinking of the altered dominant scale here. And then A is really going to be A flat, because that's going to be your sharp 5. Okay, so let's just look at the alterations here. So I've spelled a chord from the altered dominant scale, all in thirds, but we have all these really wacky relationships. We have the 1, 3, sharp 5, then the flat 7, flat 9, then we have the sharp 4, or sharp 11, and the sharp 5. Or we could say sharp 4, sharp 5. Or you could call it, let's do it this way, because this is how most people think of the altered dominant scale. Flat 5, sharp 5, okay? Now A flat and G sharp are redundant. That's one of the problems with spelling these things like this with the letter names. So what notes are we missing here? So we have two sharp fives going on here. We have the flat five, but we don't have the sharp nine. So the sharp nine is going to be your E flat. Well, where does that come in? Well, it doesn't really come in here if you're spelling it, because we already have the E natural here. That's the thing, is that this altered dominant scale has the E and the E natural. So this is kind of where the upper structure triads fall apart, and we have to go to our normal way that we look at the altered scale, which is you start with the triads and you actually just have to memorize them. C diminished, C augmented, right? This is one of the triads. I'm going to do a video on the altered scale, but it has both off the root. It has the diminished, has the augmented. Then you go to C sharp minor or D flat minor. I'm not going to do the sus ones. I'm going to do all just the straight triads that you guys will know. And then E flat minor. And then you go to immediately, you have to jump up to E augmented. So it's confusing here because you can write, you know, if you were to write a C altered scale, you're going to really write it C, let's see, we're in treble clef, C, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, right? 1, flat 9, sharp 9, doesn't look like that, but that's what it is. Third, because F flat is E. Then you have the G flat, which is the flat 5, A flat is the sharp 5, and B flat is the flat 7. That is your altered dominant scale. Let me put the 1 there. That's your C altered dominant scale. So this is where memorization actually comes in for it. So then E augmented, F sharp major, and then A flat major, and then B flat diminished. Now, because we have one augmented chord and we have two augmented chords, we should have three augmented chords, which we do. So if you go A flat, C, E flat, you're going to get an augmented chord as well. So that's, anytime you have an augmented chord in a scale, you're going to have three augmented chords. You're going to have three diminished chords too. Wait, hold on. A flat major, A flat augmented, B flat diminished. So I've got C diminished, I've got B flat diminished. Wait, am I missing any? No, I think I got all of them actually. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In a 7-note scale, we've got 9 triad possibilities. And that's not by me going over, because normally you would see me go C diminished, C augmented, C sharp minor, C sharp sus 4, E flat minor, E flat sus 4, E augmented, F sharp major, F sharp Lydian, A flat major, A flat sus 4, B flat diminished. Normally I would go through all those and add them. I will do that when I do my C altered video, which might be my next video. But this is where upper structure triads kind of fall apart, is on when you have all these weird enharmonics. You can't really build, you can build these chords in thirds, but they're really confusing. So if you do that like this, you'd really have C, E flat, G flat, right? So you have the C. This is how you build these chords. You get the C diminished chord there. And then if I go up here and I add the flat 7, you're getting the C minor 7 flat 5. And that's one of the 7th chords. That would be C half diminished. Put the little slash through there. That would include that. So this is confusing and it takes memorization. That's it. There's no other shortcut to it. But in understanding the upper structure triads, I've done other videos where I've shown you how to play using upper structure triads over certain progressions. One thing that you want to keep in mind, which I really haven't talked about that much, is this. Generally, when you're playing a voicing, what I like to do personally is I like to find notes that are a half step away from the voicing that you're playing. That's why I like really specific voicings if I'm playing a melody or if somebody's playing something under me. I'll show you why. If I have a, let's say I have a C minor 11 chord here. So I've got C, I've got F, B flat, E flat. So I've got the B flat, which is a 7, flat third, and the 4. C minor 11. Well, I have two notes that are half step away, which is D, which is the 9th, and A, which is the 13th. All right, so that gives you those beautiful major 7th intervals there. Now, if I put those notes in the chord voicing, it actually makes the notes not have any impact. That's why when you're comping for someone or writing a melody, try and take those tension notes like the 9ths and 13ths, those upper extensions, and put voicings under them that don't contain those notes. You want to save those notes and create those beautiful intervals that that is really kind of how you, what I say, bring the sound of those. Okay, you can also do things where you like I like to look for things like that. Like if I'm in a G minor, if I'm playing over G minor, I play that G minor, and I'm looking for those notes like that E natural, which is gives me that G minor 13 sound. You'll hear people like Iden will play those sounds, or Brad Meldau. But that E against this, against the F, really gives that beautiful, beautiful Dorian sound. Just like if you're going to do Aeolian. Okay, so I've got this, if I have, so I got 1, 5, flat 6. There's my 7th, my 3rd, my flat 6. If I leave it out down low, if I just play here, then that D has much more impact. Or when I play the A, whoops. When I play that B flat, and then you hear that A above that, if I spread it out a little more like this. All of a sudden, when you've heard this B flat, and then the A pops in there, it makes the chord, the voicing explode, or the line explodes. That's where you get those really... those really beautiful, rich sounds. That is the, you know, the Dorian sound. Or the Aeolian sound. It's beautiful, beautiful sounds, right? That's really kind of the... that you want to be going for. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera around and take questions. If I'm not too bright here. And there's Rhett. Hold on. Rhett!
I've been back here the whole time, man.
He's been back there the whole time, man in the cameras. Okay, let me turn it around. There we go. Oh boy, I'm super bright here. Rhett, maybe you can turn these lights down a little bit. I'm really washed out here. If I make a pop verse in A, hold on. Oh man, I just lost it. Some of you guys that just, okay, if you make a, somebody said nice hat, Rhett. There you go, that's perfect. If I make a pop verse in A, Lydian modal, and the chorus in E, major tonal, isn't it, oh, I just lost it. Sorry, guys. These things really hit fast here. Let's see here. Love the Chopin style. You can ask me any questions now. If we had 10 fingers on the left hand, yeah, exactly, right? You can definitely use these concepts on guitar. I use these concepts on guitar all the time. You can't play those, some of the voicings you can't play, obviously, because you're unless you're Alan Holdsworth. You got 6 strings, maybe you have 7 strings, maybe you have 8 strings. It kind of depends on what kind of guitar setup you have. If you make a pop verse, isn't that neo-modal or neo-tonal composition? We mix it up. I just lost that. I didn't see that. Please ask that question again, because every time it comes up, I can't get through the thing. What? When we mix up tonal and modal, I don't call things E major tonal. You're not mixing up tonal. Well, you can have modal mixture. That is a thing where you're mixing 2 different modes. The Thomas Newman cue that I did from James Bond, that mixes E major and E minor, parallel major and minor. But if you really think about it, you're thinking Ionian to, could be Dorian there, both based off E. That would be a combination, like a modal mixture. Other things. Okay, let me talk about... if you guys are interested in the Beato book, now my book has all these different things in there. A lot of people write to me. I get hundreds of emails a day. Is the Beato book good for them if they're a beginner? Yes, because the Beato book starts at the beginning with simple intervals. I really haven't explained this before, but it's a 300 and some odd page PDF. And it starts from the beginning of theory, and I literally start with intervals. So all these topics that I explain in here are explained in much greater detail in the book with examples. So they're a lot easier to grasp, and they have special chapters, whether it's modal mixture or triadic superimposition or anything, 12-tone triads. All the different things I've made videos about, I have in the Beato book, and I have examples in that are written in music. So it's a really good compendium to these. It's also a great way to support my channel. I have some production gigs starting up where I'm not going to be able to post as much. And, if you guys want to donate to my PayPal and you really believe in what I'm doing here, you can just make a donation. It's my rickbeato1@gmail.com. If you $5, $10, whatever you feel like. If you believe in what I'm doing and you want to support me that way, that would be a really, really great way of doing it and would be tremendously appreciated. It also will open up time. I try to make a video every day if I can. When I'm producing a project, I can't make videos every day, but I'm trying to put out as much information as I can. For those of you that watched my video last night, I've still been chuckling about it, about my band and the disastrous record we had. Some of my old bandmates, we were just cracking up about it. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, it's a pretty amusing story. I wasn't laughing at the time, but looking back on it, it's as someone put in there, a total mockumentary. It's Spinal Tap through and through. Let's see, something common. Let's see, something I'm going through is common up instructions jazz, such as playing F dominant 13 flat 9. I just lost it again. Okay, just put the comments in here and write down where you're from. And I really like to know how you guys consume music. For those of you that haven't told me that, I want to know. I like to take a poll on if people use Spotify, iTunes, or what is it called? iTunes Music? Is it
Apple Music?
Apple Music, Pandora, or YouTube to consume music. If they use YouTube Red, I think people use YouTube Red? Is that a listening thing on there, Red? Okay. So I want to know that. I want you to put that in the comments. Once the video is over, all these comments that you guys are putting in disappear completely. So you have to wait and post it afterwards. So, like I said, if you're interested in the Beato book and you want to support me through that supports me tremendously and helps you. If you want to just donate to my channel, you can do it once again through rickbeato1@gmail.com. That's my PayPal. I have a lot of good special guests on my signing off show coming up. I haven't decided yet if it's going to be a weekly show or bi-weekly. If you guys want to sound off here in the comments section once I hang up, do that. Please sound off and tell me what you think it should be. I've had a lot of people that have been interested in approaching me, some well-known people, about being on the show. So also tell your friends about my channel. That's the best way to get it out there. The more people we have watching, the more views we get, the bigger people I can get. I'm going to get some film scoring people. I want to get all the top film scoring people. I want to get the top jazz players. I want to get the top classical musicians on here, the top composers. So anyways, that's all for now, as I like to say. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. I know that some of you people on there are not subscribers yet. Hit the subscribe button, follow me. And if you'd like the Beato book, write me at rickbeato1@gmail.com. And look out for the podcast, because Rhett is going to help me set that up. Actually, Rhett's going to set it up for me here in a few minutes. So I'll paste a link here in the comments section once it's ready. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.